Tonight, you're going to eat something out of a package. You'll barely think about it. Chew, swallow, scroll. But the real answer to what your body was built to eat is far stranger than anything on your plate right now. For most of human history, there was no such thing as a meal plan. There was no breakfast. There was only hunger, and the long, restless search to end it. Your ancestors did not sit down to eat. They wandered for it. They dug for it. They fought for it. So what did they actually eat? Not steak, not bread, not anything you'd recognize as a diet. The truth is messier and far more interesting. Anthropologist Katharine Milton spent decades studying primates in the wild, tracking what they ate hour by hour through dense forest. Her research showed something surprising. Early hominins were not locked into one food type. They were opportunists. Fruit when it ripened, leaves when fruit ran out, insects, tubers, roots dug from packed earth with bare hands or sharpened sticks. Meat, when it could be found or scavenged, was a rare and precious event, not a daily ritual. Your ancestors were not apex predators stalking the savannah with spears raised. For a long stretch of prehistory, they were something closer to opportunistic scavengers. They followed lions and hyenas. They waited. When a carcass was abandoned, they moved in fast, cracking open bones for the marrow inside, the fat-rich tissue that other animals couldn't reach. That marrow may have mattered more to early brain growth than the meat itself. Why does marrow matter so much? Because fat was survival currency. Calories were never guaranteed. A diet built on foraging meant some days were feast, and many more were near famine. The body that could store fat efficiently and burn it slowly was the body that lived long enough to pass on its genes. This is where the story gets stranger. Somewhere around 2 million years ago, something changed. Brains started getting bigger, not a little bigger, dramatically bigger, in evolutionary terms almost overnight. And brains are expensive. They demand enormous energy, far more per gram than muscle or bone. Primatologist Richard Wrangham proposed a controversial answer: cooking. Fire didn't just keep predators away at night. It changed food itself. Cooked food is easier to chew, easier to digest, and releases more usable calories than the same food eaten raw. Wrangham's research suggested that once early humans controlled fire, they effectively outsourced part of digestion to the flame. Less energy spent breaking food down inside the gut meant more energy available elsewhere, like, for instance, growing a bigger brain. Is that really why your brain looks the way it does? The evidence is still debated, but the timing lines up in a way that's hard to ignore. Here's another piece of the puzzle. Bioarchaeologist Christina Warinner has spent years analyzing ancient dental plaque, actual fossilized food debris stuck in human teeth thousands of years old. What she and her collaborators found upended a popular myth. Ancient diets were not uniform. They were not universally clean. They were wildly local, wildly seasonal, and wildly dependent on whatever landscape a group happened to live in. A community near a coastline ate differently than one on a grassland. A group during a wet season ate differently than the same group 6 months later. There was no single ancestral diet. There were thousands of them, shifting constantly, shaped entirely by geography and climate. So why do modern diet trends promise one true ancestral way of eating? Because certainty sells better than complexity. But your body wasn't built around certainty. It was built around flexibility. Your ancestors survived not because they found the perfect food, but because they could eat almost anything when they had to. Then, around 12,000 years ago, everything shifted again. Agriculture arrived, and with it, something unexpected happened. Skeletons from early farming communities often show something surprising to modern ears. Shorter statures, more dental disease, signs of nutritional stress that weren't as common in some earlier foraging populations. Why would farming, the thing that let humanity build cities, also make people less healthy. Because a farmed diet, at least at first, meant relying heavily on one or two staple crops. Wheat, rice, maize, abundant calories, yes, but narrower nutrition. Foragers ate dozens of species across a season. Early farmers often ate a handful. Reliable food is not the same thing as complete food. There's a strange irony hiding in that fact. Agriculture is often taught as pure progress, a straight line up. But for a while, for many early farming communities, it may have meant less variety, more disease, and harder physical labor than the foraging life it replaced. Does that mean progress was a mistake? Not exactly. Agriculture eventually enabled surplus. Surplus enabled population growth, specialization, writing, cities, everything that followed. But the body adapting to that new diet didn't get an instant upgrade. It got centuries of adjustment, and in some ways, it's still adjusting now. Which brings the story back to tonight. Back to that package on your plate. Your digestive system, your cravings, even your sense of what tastes good, were shaped by an ancestor who never knew where the next meal was coming from. That's why fat and sugar taste like reward. They used to be rare. They used to mean survival. Your brain hasn't fully caught up to a world where they're sitting in a drive-through window, available in seconds, in nearly unlimited supply. You are not eating with a modern brain. You are eating with a forager's brain, dropped into a world engineered to exploit exactly what that brain evolved to crave. So when you reach for something sweet at the end of a long day, that's not weakness. That's 2 million years of scarcity. Still running in the background, still convinced that this bite might be the last one for a while. Tonight, you'll eat something out of a package again. But maybe this time, you'll notice the ancient hunger underneath the modern convenience. The same hunger that once sent your ancestors across miles of open land, chasing marrow, fire, and one more meal to survive the night.